I'm the only player that can honestly say this. I'm the only pro football player that's in the Hall of Fame. And I'm the second best player in my own family.
He was considered just as good as Jerry Rice and better than his brother, who is a Pro Football Hall of Famer. He was named to the Pro Bowl 5 times and was named a first-team All-Pro 3 times. He led the NFL in receptions multiple times and led the league in touchdowns and yards once. He even won the coveted NFL Triple Crown of receiving, a feat that has only been done 5 times before him. However, he was never voted into Canton and has officially missed the vote to be a part of the Hall's modern era class. In the age of oversized shoulder pads and in Brett Favre's first few years in the league, how good was Shannon Sharpe's brother, Sterling? What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be discussing how great Sterling Sharpe actually was at football. Before we get to the content, take a moment to let us know in the comment section down below if there are any other NFL legendary careers that you'd like us to cover, and give this video a like to help push this video out to a larger audience. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. There were several Sharpe siblings that were raised in Glenville, Georgia by their grandparents. However, 2 of the brothers, Sterling and Shannon, were absolute football all-stars. Sterling was 4 years older than Shannon, and they were both super athletes. Everybody knew that they would go far. Sterling played and gained honors in 3 sports in high school: football, basketball, and track, and played 3 positions on the football team: running back, quarterback, and linebacker, neither of which would be his full-time position in the NFL. Sterling enrolled at the University of South Carolina to pursue his education and, as he said, also play a little football. And boy, did this man do more than just play. He became an absolute phenom. Sharpe shattered South Carolina football stats, setting multiple records with 169 career receptions and 2,497 receiving yards, and at the time, the record of 17 career touchdowns. In 1998, Sterling Sharpe's hard work would finally get rewarded, becoming the 7th overall pick in the NFL draft by the Green Bay Packers. Sterling Sharpe was a starter from day one in Green Bay, starting all 16 games and catching 55 passes for 791 yards from a subpar quarterback by the name of Don Majkowski. In his next season, Sharpe posted stats that made him the 2nd best wide receiver in the entire NFL. Sterling was the best player on the Green Bay Packers in 1989, setting Packers records with 90 catches and 1,423 yards. His 12 touchdowns were 2nd in the NFL, only to Jerry Rice. In 1990, Sterling Sharpe would finally get some recognition for his greatness, as he would be named to his first Pro Bowl with his 6 touchdowns and 1,105 receiving yards on the season. Then in 1992, there would be a change for the Green Bay Packers that was so dramatic that this change would reverberate around the landscape of the NFL, as a young jean short wearing cool kid by the name of Brett Favre would be named the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. Favre's favorite target was Sharpe, and in 1992, he would catch 108 passes from Brett Favre for nearly 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns. Bear in mind, this was during the days where the NFL was extremely run-heavy. Sharpe would still go on to win the Triple Crown honor of leading the NFL in receptions, yards, and touchdowns, and then in 1993, Sharpe would break his own record with catching 112 of Brett Favre's beautifully thrown passes. Sterling Sharpe became the first NFL receiver to go back-to-back seasons with over 100 receptions. The Packers would make the playoffs in 1993, with Sharpe scoring 3 touchdowns in the wild card game. It was a score that gave the Packers a 28-24 victory against the Detroit Lions and advanced the Packers to the divisional playoff game. And although the Green Bay Packers would fall to the mighty Dallas Cowboys that next week, Sharpe still posted posted a touchdown and caught 6 passes for 128 yards in the loss. Sterling Sharpe seemed to have put a future order in for a gold jacket as he began the 1994 season, more on fire than ever before. And at the same time, his younger brother Shannon, who played collegiately at a Division II school and was a 7th-round draft pick into the NFL, was on his way to becoming one of the best in the NFL at the wideout position as well. Shannon had just joined Sterling as an All-Pro selection in 1993 and was making a name for himself in Denver. In 1994, the Packers, thanks to the tandem of Brett Favre and Sterling Sharpe, were finally looking like a dominant NFL team and were positioning themselves to finally advance further into the playoffs. Quarterback Brett Favre was just coming into his own, and the Green Bay Packers could possibly become the dynasty of the mid-1990s with the leadership of Sterling Sharpe. In 1994, Sharpe would catch an obscene 18 touchdowns, the second highest single season total in the NFL. And then, in a blink of an eye, right before the 1994 playoffs had even begun, Sterling Sharpe wouldn't catch a single pass from Brett Favre or ever play a single down of NFL football ever again. In the second quarter of the 1994 Week 16 Green Bay Packers vs. Atlanta Falcons game, Sterling Sharpe, who had just been named to his 5th Pro Bowl, went in for a strong block against Atlanta's defensive back, Brad Edwards. Edwards hit Sharpe helmet to helmet full force, with Sterling's head snapping back and his body toppling to the turf with his head hitting first. The very next scene would display Sharpe lying face down on the ground, motionless for quite some time. Sterling eventually walks off of the field on his own, and everyone is relieved that the All-Pro wideout seemed okay. He would miss the second half of the game, but would return for the regular season finale in just 1 week. However, it turns out that the injury would be the event that would ultimately prematurely end his career. In the final game of the 1994 season, Sterling Sharpe, as he always had, returned to catch 9 passes for 132 yards and 3 touchdowns in a win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. However, after being tackled numerous times in the contest, Sharpe's injuries just became way too much, and he would get ruled out for the Packers' wildcard game. The next week, Sterling flew to see a doctor in Indianapolis, where test results showed an abnormal loosening of the first and second cervical vertebrae. It was an injury that required surgery to fuse the 2 vertebrae, and it was an operation that took 8 months to recover from, and any future injury to the site would be life-threatening. Sharpe's doctor solemnly spoke to him, saying, "If you were my son, then I wouldn't advise you to play anymore." And at age 29 and in the prime of his career, Sterling Sharpe was forced to retire from the NFL. The Sharpe brothers recalled the event last year on Shannon Sharpe's podcast Club Shay Shay, with a segment with Shannon saying that Sterling called him to tell him that he would not be playing football anymore, and it was Shannon, not Sterling, who began crying during the conversation. Sterling played for 7 years in the NFL, a span in which he never missed a regular season game, and finished his career with 595 receptions, 8,134 receiving yards, and 65 touchdowns. In the year of his retirement, he was one of 3 players averaging more than 72.6 receiving yards per game. If he had just a few more years with Brett Favre, the stats that he could have posted would have sealed his fate for his own bust in Canton. The Packers may have even pushed past the Dallas Cowboys as the most dominant team in the NFC, and maybe even the NFL, had he had remained healthy. Sterling Sharpe was inducted into the Packers Hall of Fame in 2002 and the College Football Hall of Fame in 2014, but he had missed the cutoff to be voted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a member of the modern era. He was never even voted as a semi-finalist. Sharpe, although he served as an NFL Network analyst after retirement, was notorious for not speaking to the media as a player, and perhaps that has given him a bad rap with voters in addition to his very brief career. Still, there are many that believe that Sterling Sharpe should receive the invite to visit Canton as an inductee and not a guest of an inductee. Ron Wolf, who served as Green Bay's general manager from 1991 to 2001 and was elected to Canton in 2015, honestly believes that Sterling Sharpe was not just one of the best, but the perfect football player. Wolf appeared on the Eye Test for Two podcast on fullpressradio.com to stand up for Sterling and said,
"He's a perfect football player. I don't know what else to add to that. Perfect football player. He was really tough and really dedicated to the game. He could do everything you would want a receiver to do. He would go anywhere to catch a ball. He would go in and catch it. He could go out and catch it. He could run hooks, runs outs, runs ups. He was not intimidated by anything or anybody or any situation."
Wolf went on to lobby the case for Sterling making the Pro Football Hall of Fame, saying,
"You have to consider who he played for. He played for a lousy Green Bay Packers team until Mike Holmgren and I got there and kind of changed the fortunes. But he's the reason for the change. In 1992, with that collection of players we had, Mike Holmgren and his staff were able to go 9-7 and have a winning record, which was remarkable. But the real reason for that was Brett Favre and Sterling Sharp. I'm sure every defensive coordinator that got ready to play the Packers said, all we have to do is take Sharp away and we'll beat them. Well, you know what? They never took him away. He led the league in receptions. He was just a tremendous football player. Hard to believe that he was as good as he was, considering what he had around him as a team.
Sterling's own brother, Shannon, when he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, had some passionate words about Sterling. In 2011, as Shannon Sharp was presented his Hall of Fame bust by none other than his big brother, Shannon said this of Sterling:
"I'm the only player of 267 men that's walked through this building to my left that can honestly say this. I'm the only pro football player that's in the Hall of Fame, and I'm the second best player in my own family."
Shannon Sharp continues to defend his brother in present day. Just in February, Shannon shared a clip of Sterling on Twitter and wrote, "When my brother retired, nobody had caught more passes in their first 7 seasons than him, and only Jerry Rice had more years in their first 7 years. I believe my brother was as dominant in his era as Megatron was in his." For reference, Calvin Johnson was named to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2021 with just a 9-year career. In the 2021 class, Sterling Sharp wasn't one of the 130 players on the preliminary list. His 20 years of eligibility as a modern-era star had officially expired. To make it in the future as a senior candidate, well, the chances are looking really slim. The pool of seniors eligible for the Hall is very deep. There are 59 all-decade choices, and the fact that Sterling never made it as a finalist or a semi-finalist, well, you have to dig very deep to get down to his name. Although for years, Sterling Sharp was one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Now the best chance for him to model a gold jacket is probably for him to borrow his younger brother's, and hopefully it fits.